take you downtown. And we go downtown. The Basket Case, Episode 2. It is Monday, April 11th, 2022. And I am going to talk about a few things today. The first thing I want to talk about is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has won a lot of awards at the BAFTA, and it got me thinking about that game again and how great it is and how it demonstrated right at launch the strengths of PlayStation and their first party. People were screaming about, all these buzzwords when the next gen came about, ray tracing and global illumination and whatever they were talking about. But the only game that demonstrated that was Ratchet and Clank. Microsoft talked about ray tracing. They showed off a great demo for Minecraft, and it looked a million times better than it ever looked. But I never was into Minecraft. But I went back and I played the game, and it is just absolutely incredible. That game makes me sweat, and it makes me wet. I love that game so much. And the first party quality, man, that's the thing. I'm waiting for Microsoft to do it, and I'm down on them. I get critical, but then I just got the Xbox Series X, and I started to play these games that I played on the Series S, and I like the Series S. But there's a huge difference. There really is. And I'm not a big resolution frame rate person, but Gears 5 looks so much better on the Series X. Halo Infinite looks so much better on the Series X. And that's where the idea for, talking about this stuff came from, because those games look good, but there's this step that they have to take and they haven't taken yet. Like with Halo Infinite, it looks good and they've got this large open world, but where's the meat? I want the meat. I just said that. That was a sentence I thought I'd never say, but I just said it. I want more to do in that game. I want them to take it seriously. You look at Ratchet and Clank. There's no reason for that game to look as good as it does or to play as well as it does, but they care about that franchise and they worked hard to get it out and make sure. Another sentence I thought I'd never say. I want the meat and work hard to get it out. This is turning into a fucking X-rated stream. Anyway, I love the game. And I love Halo Infinite, but I want them to take that next step, and I'm constantly waiting for it. I'm constantly waiting for them to take that next step. And all I keep hearing about is GamePass, and this is coming to GamePass, and that's coming to GamePass, and that's great. But I want to see these big games come to GamePass that Microsoft makes themselves, not third-party games. Games they make themselves. I want them to come to Game Pass, and I want them to be incredible. I want them to be on the level of those Sony first-party games, because if they are, and they come to Game Pass, then the idea of, you can't have games in Game Pass that look like Sony first-party games, that goes out the window. So it's on Microsoft to do it. And I'm hopeful with Starfield because, I like Western-style RPGs. I love Skyrim. Oblivion on the Xbox 360. I mean, that was the reason to own an Xbox 360. It's odd that those games sort of identified with the Xbox 360. Games like Elder Scrolls, some of the other de facto third-party exclusives that were just third-party, but because they came out on the Xbox 360 first, you just identify the Xbox with them, like BioShock. BioShock was huge game. And when I think about BioShock, I think about Xbox, which is odd, right? But when I think about certain other third-party games, I think about PlayStation. So it's really about first party, and they've got to create something great with Starfield. Starfield can't come out and look like Outer Wilds or something like that. Like they can't have kind of last gen or mid gen character models without really exquisite lip syncing when you're talking to them and a lot of effects and stuff like that. It needs to be so good. The bar has to be so high, and it can't just be it's kind of okay because it's in Game Pass. I don't buy that. I don't want that anymore. Somebody left a comment here. Invader Gaming. Good morning, Worry. What's up? Love your Ratchet and Clank trophy hunting. He does trophy and achievement hunting videos that are really good. So it's Invader Gaming. Go there and subscribe. I just want stuff to be great. And I'm not saying I enjoy Halo. I go back to it and I just roam around. I finished the game. I maxed out Master Chief and all the stuff that you can do with him. I literally go into the game at least once a day and just roam around that world and use the grappling hook. I just want more to do. I want to be able to replay chapters. Just a basic feature of a video game isn't there. I would love to play co-op. I would love to have some DLC for the campaign. I would love to have a lot of things that I think I should have already because it's Halo and I just don't have them. So I'm critical, but I think it comes from a good place. So let's move on to Sony is leading in a $2 billion investment in Epic Games Metaverse. Epic Games announced that existing investor Sony Group Corporation and the holding and investment company behind the Lego Group have contributed $1 billion each for a $2 billion funding round. Epic will remain under the control of CEO and founder Tim Sweeney. The partnership between the Lego Group and Epic Games was announced last week with their combined goal to make a kids metaverse that is safe and fun for children and families. With the full release of Unreal Engine 5 last week, most likely we're going to see the new experience sooner rather than later. So here is the quote. As we reimagine the future of entertainment, which, I mean, give me a break. The future of entertainment is not the metaverse. It's not some walled in place that isn't a place. I can't forget it. We'll get into that later. As we reimagine the future of entertainment and play, we need partners who share our vision. We have found this in our partnership with Sony and Kirkby, said Tim Sweeney, CEO and founder of Epic Games. This investment will accelerate our work to build the metaverse and create spaces where players can have fun with friends. It's called a fucking park. Brands can build creative and immersive experiences, more control over what you see, what you think, and what you feel, and creators can build a community and thrive. Microtransactions, microtransactions, microtransactions. Epic Games also received funding from Sony nearly a year ago to the day, back on April 13th, 2021. Back then, Epic Games was valued at $28.7 billion, so within a year, they've nearly added $4 billion in value and gotten $1.2 billion in investment from Sony. The earlier funding round was a $200 million strategic investment to advance technology, entertainment, and socially connected services, or the metaverse. Sony seems to be playing the long game here, with their purchase of Bungie and overall focus on games as a service, indicating that this is all part of their focus on ongoing digital experiences. Hopefully, it'll be better than PlayStation Home, but I won't hold my breath. By the way, I'm reading this from a site called Tech Raptor. The title is Sony leads $2 billion investment in Epic Games Metaverse. Okay, let me go back. Next quote. As a creative entertainment company, we are thrilled to invest in Epic to deepen our relationship in the metaverse field, a space where creators and users share their time, said Kenichiro Yoshida, chairman, president, and CEO of Sony Group Corporation. We are also confident that Epic's expertise, including their powerful game engine, combined with Sony's technologies, will accelerate our various efforts, such as the development of new digital fan experiences in sports and our virtual production initiatives. So they're referencing everything but games. They're talking about digital fan experiences. So if you're a fan of, let's go back to Ratchet and Clank, you can project yourself into the metaverse and do what? Go to Ratchet and Clank land? They have a Ratchet and Clank ride in the metaverse that you don't actually ride because it's not real, but you can go there as an avatar with other people who are avatars and dance around and look at Ratchet and Clank shit. I don't know. And virtual production initiatives. So what does that mean? Virtual production. So it's production, but it's virtual. It doesn't exist. More things that just don't exist. They're creating a space. The space you're in now, the real world, they're already nickel and diming you. Not just Sony, Microsoft, Epic, everyone. You're already being squeezed so hard for every fucking nickel you have when you buy a video game. Now that's not good enough. You're going to do it in the real world, but then they're going to funnel you into this fake world where they can also do it to you. It just doesn't make any sense. Has anybody ever played an MMO where you've gone into a game with friends and run around? What's the difference? It's the metaverse. It's just a catchphrase. It's a marketing slogan. It's a way to reach into your pocket even more. And I don't like it. And I don't want it. Fuck the metaverse. Fuck it hard, I says. I don't know. I just lost it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand why everybody is so willing to just be funneled into something that doesn't exist. They're selling Listen, there's properties for sale. Properties that don't exist, that are for sale in a world that doesn't exist, with a currency that doesn't exist. And people are going crazy for it. So I don't like the idea that Sony's investing in this, and not because I know that it's going to make them money or I don't. That's another thing. The idea that you're going to get information on YouTube from people who do YouTube for a living and talk about video games, and they're going to tell you whether or not Sony's investment strategy is right or not. They've got mountains of lawyers, mountains of financial analysts. Nobody on YouTube can tell you whether or not it's going to make them money or not. The only thing they could tell you is whether or not it sounds like it's going to lead to better gaming experiences, because they're not talking about games. They're talking about virtual production. Listen, various efforts, such as the development of new digital fan experiences. Why the hell would you want to go to a concert virtually? Does anybody remember outside, getting together with your friends to have fun? You can do that. You can go outside. You don't have to go into a video game to do it. And by the way, once you get into this imaginary realm, let's say they create the God of War room or the God of War world, where you go in with your avatar and there's all different videos of all the God of Wars, and you can watch them together and comment in real time with your friends and jump up and down and scream how PlayStation is great. That's fine. But then what about all the little ads that are happening in the background? What about all the extra cost that you have to pay to subscribe? What about, hey, would you like your avatar to look like Kratos? Just give us $1. See what I mean? This isn't about putting you in a world because they want to put you there because they like you or because they want you to have fun. It's just another way to nickel and dime you. And I don't like it. I want it gone. So another $1 billion into Epic. I have no idea why they did it, other than the fact that everybody's up on this metaverse bullshit. I don't like it. It doesn't make sense to me. It could be because I'm old, but I don't know. The next thing, I want to move on because the metaverse is ridiculous. Let's talk about GamePass. Let's talk about it. I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. I got Sumatra coffee in a cup. Tastes so good. It makes me feel, I don't know, like sweaty. How Xbox Game Pass became the subscription service to beat. All right. So, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Xbox Game Pass is the subscription service to beat. 4 years ago, between the announcements of Xbox Game Pass and its launch, Microsoft's vision for the Netflix of games had yet to come into focus. Phil Spencer and Team Xbox were clear in its direction, though public perception surrounding the game subscription service was muddier. What did Xbox Game Pass mean for consumers? Was it sustainable for developers? How would it affect the future of game ownership? Now, coming up on the service's 4th anniversary, public perception has cleared, and the verdict is near universal. The verdict is near universal. So they've gone out throughout the entirety of the universe and interviewed everyone, and it's near universal. Xbox Game Pass has been heralded as cost-effective, accessible alternative to traditional game purchasing for many players. I want to go back to that. Xbox Game Pass has been heralded as a cost-effective, accessible alternative to traditional game purchasing for many players. It's an alternative to game purchasing for many players. Now, if you think Xbox Game Pass is an alternative to purchasing games, then right there, you're going to limit yourself to the type of games that you can experience. I'm not saying If you have a problem affording games, it isn't great, and it is. And if you do, you should use subscription services. But if games come out that you are interested in and that look great and that review well and they're $60 and you're just going to say, well, I used to buy games. I still can buy games. It isn't a cost issue. But I think I'll just wait because one day, maybe at some point in the future, it may come to Game Pass. That's ridiculous. As Sony takes a bigger step into offering its own subscriptions with its all-new PlayStation Plus, and Nintendo has tried its own hand at a similar service with some of the benefits of Nintendo Switch Online, we're taking a look back at how Xbox Game Pass has evolved since its inception from an unproven concept, which it still is, people, to the backbone of Microsoft's gaming ambitions. Let's go to Game Pass origins. Microsoft originally envisioned Xbox Game Pass as a rental service. It's still a rental service. You're still paying to rent a catalog of games. The project was known internally as Arches, though the concept would never make it to market in that form. Microsoft seeing the success of other media streaming services like, here we go, Netflix and Spotify again, pivoted towards a subscription model, and thus the Game Pass as we know it was born. The pitch for Game Pass, passionately spearheaded by Xbox boss Phil Spencer, was met with resistance as publishers expressed concern about devaluing their own products for Microsoft's potential gain. Spencer saw things differently. Well, he works for Microsoft. Do you think he's going to see it their way? His vision was both clear and, as time has proven, feasible. Again, it's feasible for certain games. My God. Game Pass was an opportunity for mutual growth, for Microsoft to expand its active user base on Xbox, and for publishers to grow player counts, extend gaming shelf lives. I agree with that one. Jedi Johnny 5, good morning, Worry. What's up, Jedi Johnny 5? Thank you for coming in. I appreciate that. Yeah, Game Pass extends lives of games. Every game, AAA, single A, double A, mobile game. Of course it will extend the life. Put it in the service. It's there. People will try it. It extends the life of those games. I agree with that. And I lost my goddamn place. He was with clear vision, Microsoft, extend games to shelf lives, and ultimately increase revenue through continued sales. Here's the kicker, people. Increase revenue through continued sales and in-game transactions. Not to mention the guaranteed money from Microsoft for allowing their games on the service, which, okay, I get it. They have to pay for those games. By the way, that's another thing I see a lot of. People saying, I'm going to buy this game because developers just need to be supported. And if you're going to put the game in a subscription service, all of their hard work is just not being appreciated. So I'm going to pay $60. Microsoft's paying them to put the game in the subscription service. They're being paid. Probably not as much as they'd make if people bought the game at a clip of 12 to 20 million a piece, but they're still being paid. So they're still being paid. So stop with the virtue signaling. Not to mention the guaranteed money from Microsoft for allowing their games on the service. Spencer and Company ultimately said, and we know who the company is, they're all over Twitter. Spencer and Company also sold publishers on the idea by pitching a low-risk investment. Give us your older games, games whose revenue streams have effectively dried up, and let's see what happens. Now, keep in mind, those were older games whose revenue streams had dried up. With publishers' support secured, Microsoft officially availed Xbox Game Pass in February 2017. The $10 a month service featured access to a library of over 100 Xbox and Xbox 360 games, as well as subscriber-exclusive discounts. I like that as well. The service officially launched 4 months later on June 1st, featuring Halo 5 Guardians, terrible Halo game, Gears of War, Borderlands, BioShock, and more. As Microsoft predicted, And as publishers soon found out, player engagement surpassed expectation. Total player counts, as well as subscribers' average spending, and genre experimentation that only happened in college once increased significantly, according to Xbox. Weeks later, Microsoft announced original Xbox backwards compatibility was coming to Xbox One. That is a fantastic program. Jedi Johnny 5, isn't Microsoft paying publishers through their not paying the developers directly, so it's mostly up to the publisher to then pay what the developers are owed? I don't know if that is true, but I imagine that in some cases they're doing that because that makes sense for them to make the most money. And yes, it isn't great to do. This was not only a boom for Xbox Game Pass catalog, but for past generations' accessibility and game preservation as well. A notable point in Microsoft's favor compared to the way Sony and Nintendo have handled its legacy titles. Yes, there's no doubt that backwards compatibility is completely separate from Game Pass. They do it better than anybody, but they don't have full backwards compatibility. They just don't. But at least they offer it. Now, they don't have the history of games in the past that PlayStation or Nintendo does. So if they did it tomorrow, then game over. But they're not doing it. Legacy titles. Both have seen pushback from fans after announcements like Nintendo's plan to close its 3DS and Wii U shop without plans to support those titles. And most recently, Sony actually had their, I think that's happening right now, the PS3 titles and the, the Vita titles that have expired. People own them, they're just gone. So it's not a good look. No addition to Xbox Game Pass has been more impactful than Microsoft's commitment to launch all of its first-party games day and date on the service. They did that in 2018, they said that. Subscribers have since gained access to over a dozen Xbox Game Studios titles: Halo, Gears, Forza, State of Decay, Psychonauts, and more. Okay, listen. Halo Infinite, is it great to have it in the subscription service and pay $15 a month? I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at it from my point of view. I'm not playing everything in Xbox Game Pass. There are a lot of games that drop in there. Most recently, it seems like every day 4 mobile-esque type games are going to drop in there. And before you hit me with, well, they're games too, I don't buy a Series X that eats monsters for breakfast and a giant 70-inch 4K television to play Candy Crush-style games. I just don't do it. I don't. Maybe somebody else does. Maybe they see that as rounding out the service. I don't know. I don't. Do you? Do you? I don't. Do you? I don't. So, Halo's great. Gears 5, I'm playing it now over again. It looks phenomenal. I like it. I just wish they did more with it. Again, it's another franchise that they sort of tack on these campaigns and then rush to multiplayer. And I think that is my apprehension with Game Pass. This constant monetization, this constant need to keep you engaged. And the only way they see to do it, I think, is by having multiplayer and then transactions, microtransactions. The same thing with Perfect Dark, right? What is Perfect Dark going to be? Is Perfect Dark really going to have a great campaign? Is Joanna Dark really going to be a great, well-written, compelling character? Or is it just going to be, campaign, let's get to multiplayer because it's a shooter? I don't know. I'm leaning more towards the than I am the excitement. And it's not because I hate Xbox. I've been around with Xbox before most of you have been alive. My profile is not blocked. You can go check my quote-unquote gaming credentials, you weirdos who look at achievement and trophy scores and think that means anything. But go ahead. I'm around 130,000. But I just don't want them to get caught up in that cycle. And it feels like they will, because all they talk about is monetization and shelf life and keeping the game going through microtransactions. And by the way, this announcement from Sony and what they've said with the Epic Games investment, it doesn't sound that much different from what Microsoft's saying. They're saying the same stuff, which frightens me. They're not talking about making better games. They're not talking about investing in Epic's Unreal Engine 5 because they want first crack at all the technology to make it work best on PlayStation 5 for games. They're talking about these worlds, these fantasy worlds that you go into where you can pretend we're like some guy who's 600 pounds looks like a supermodel, and you have no idea that it's actually some dude. That's the metaverse. Fuck that. Psychonauts is a great platformer. It's just not Ratchet and Clank. Again, that's what I want. I want that over the top, so much quality put into a title. I want that. I want it. The decision now highlights the starkest contrast between Game Pass and Sony's recently revealed service. Sony won't include first-party games at launch as part of its overhauled PlayStation Plus. Ladies and gentlemen, Batman was not included. It's in the theater. Why? Sonic 2 was not included. It's in the theater. Why? Ubisoft doesn't include day and date. EA doesn't include day and date. Why aren't we all over these people and these theaters and these movies? Why aren't we all over them for not doing that? Why do you think the hyper-focus is on Sony to do it? Because they're beating Microsoft. Because they have better quality. Objectively. You can hate God of War and Last of Us. But objectively, Microsoft has got nothing that comes close to that because they just won't spend the money to get not only the creative people to do it, but they just don't seem to want to do it. So objectively, yes, they're not putting those in their day and date, and neither are any of these big films and these big games with other subscription services. Why? Because people will go to the movies. Sonic 2 just broke all records. It might be the most successful video game movie of all time. Why? Why didn't all those people just say, I'm not paying $20 a ticket to go to the movies, and then I got to buy popcorn, and then I got to buy a soda? I'm not doing all that. I'll just wait for it to come to the subscription service because it is. So's Batman. It is. And all those people who went to the theater to see Sonic and Batman, more than half of them are probably subscribed to those respective subscription services. Why didn't they just wait? Because people want to consume when the food is good and when it's ready and when it's nice and warm and gooey. Okay. Sony won't include first-party games at launch as part of its overhauled PlayStation Plus. Sony's Lion Jim Ryan said the company is in a good virtuous cycle. I disagree with the word virtuous cycle because it sounds like a stuck-up. It sounds really like get out of here, dude. But okay. In a good virtuous cycle with its studios, where the investment delivers success, which enables yet more investment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a strategy that continues to work. It's not a bad strategy. Just because Microsoft's doing something else doesn't mean it's bad. The investment they're talking about is spending hundreds and millions of dollars on ideas and people and talent and games. And they're wagering that quality is going to find an audience. And then they're going to make money on that and then reinvest it and make more. And that's what they've been doing for a long time. And it is successful, and it's still successful. And Sonic proves it, and Batman proves it, and what Ubisoft's doing with their subscription service proves it, and what EA's doing with their subscription service proves it. FIFA 2022 isn't in their day and date. Why not? So it works. And including exclusives at launch would break the virtuous cycle, according to Jim Ryan, which largely seems to imply PlayStation believes not having its exclusives selling upwards of 20 million copies would simply be leaving too much money on the table. Of course it would. Why? Why in the world would you say 20 million copies at $60 or $70 a piece? No. Let's put it in the subscription service with... I can't even get this out because I can't believe I need to explain this to people. Let's put it in a subscription service where we don't have the amount of people subscribed to even offset the cost of making one of those games, half the money we need to making one of those games, let alone we have to make other games. Why would we do that when we don't have to? If the well is drying up, if we're not selling between 12 and 20 million copies, then maybe we'll think about it, which is what Microsoft did. It's not a knock at Microsoft. People were not buying their games. Even their hardcore weren't buying their games at a clip of 12 to 20 million copies. Remember back in the day when Aaron Greenberg would brag Halo 3 sold more than every single Uncharted game and every single whatever he said? Why was that important then? Because the audience was eating the food. Because not only was the food really good, but it was really warm and creamy and gooey. And they ate it right away. I have no idea where I'm going with that one, but I just wanted to do it. But now they're just not doing it. And Sony is still doing it. So they're buying it. I'll run out. I'll buy the next Ratchet & Clank. Because look at Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Why would I wait? Why would I wait as somebody who plays video games for 40 years? Why would I say, God of War is out. The sequel to 2018's God of War is out. But I'm just not going to play it. Because one day, maybe 2-3 years from now, it may come to the subscription service. Why would I do that? It just doesn't make sense to me. Unless, of course, I'm stuck in this social media cycle of defending a corporation because I tied my YouTube channel to it. And I want people to say, yeah, get them. Get those people on, get those ponies and Xbox. 40 and 50-year-old losers, I says. All right, let's go on. Microsoft launched its first game into Game Pass in March 2018, which was Thieves. It's proven to be a fitting start to the initiative. No, it wasn't for me. Sea of Thieves is absolutely terrible. It took 6 years for 6 enemy types. Okay, it might be great now, people. That's my point. Launching. Would you buy a pizza that wasn't cooked? You go to the store. Hey, I'd like a Sicilian. Okay, here it is. By the way, it'll be done in 6 months. Take it home. No, I want it done now. That's why I'm here. It's proven to be a fitting start to the initiative, as Rare's Pirate Adventure is a shining example of what the service can do for a game. Following a lukewarm reception at launch. See what I mean? It's a fitting example of what the service can do for a game. But then they go on to say, following a lukewarm reception at launch. What did the service do for the game? It made it come out incomplete, which then led to a lukewarm reception for the game at launch. So I just don't understand the article. Sea of Thieves has received 4 years of consistent updates and, as of October 2021, reached 25 million players. Can I just talk about this player thing that people like to jump up and down about? So 25 million players is not a consistent number. If I take a snapshot of Sea of Thieves on a Monday or a Saturday at 8 o'clock 2 years ago, and there's 2 million people. And then the next week I take a snapshot and there's 3 million people. And I keep doing that until I get to the number 25. How is that telling me how successful the game is? How is it telling me how successful it is in terms of an audience that wants to stay with it and engage with it? It's just... My old pal Mooch said to me, if you take a comedian, you put him in a comedy club, and nobody comes because he sucks. There's 10 people there. Then you take him and you put him in a supermarket. How many people are shopping in the supermarket? 500 people are shopping there. And then he says, well, I reached 500 people today, but you still suck. See what I mean? I don't like these metrics. I don't like it. It's a way to fool me into just perpetually subscribing to something, and I don't like it unless there's quality consistently. I have no problem paying $15 a month, and I have no problem paying $60 or $70 for a game that I know is going to be absolutely stellar. In a pre-Game Pass world, Microsoft may have dismissed Sea of Thieves as a flop after that tepid launch. Instead, it's one of Microsoft's most celebrated new franchises in recent memory. So the theory here is you launch a game that's completely incomplete and nobody responds to it. They might have seen it as a flop. Well, yes, that's what everyone sees it as. If you're going to launch something as a flop and then tell people, well, because we have this subscription service, 6 years from now, when we have time to work on it, it may be great, and that's the selling point. No. Release things finished. Don't use Game Pass as an excuse to release things that are not finished. And this is what this article is saying. It's saying because they launched it incomplete and it had a lukewarm reception, they may have written it off as a flop. They made it a flop at launch by launching it with nothing. Why am I explaining this? And then 6 years later, because people were subscribed to Game Pass over and over and over again, they put more money into it and fixed it. They could have fixed it at the beginning and launched it complete. That's my point. Phenomenal. Most recently, Xbox released Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 bucks this trend, by the way. If you're listening and you're like, fuck him, man. Fuck him, man. He don't know what he's talking about. Forza Horizon 5. Complete, man. Game Pass day one, man. Yeah, it is. It's the exception. It's not the rule. It is the exception. Somewhere in the world is the world's best ditch digger who's making $300,000 a year digging ditches. That's the exception to ditch digging. Everyone else who digs ditches makes $10,000 a year. Okay? Forza Horizon 5 is great, though, by the way. 20 million players and 20 million and 18 million players. Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5. Halo Infinite got 20 million players, and Forza Horizon 5 got 18 million players. Okay. When? What did you, like, Monday they had 5 million, Wednesday they had 10, Thursday they had 4. So let's add that all up and then report it 6 months from now and say there are 20 million players who have played Halo Infinite. I just, okay. How many people played SpongeBob SquarePants Bikini Bottom? It's in PlayStation Plus right now. See what I mean? Sony could say 20 million people just played SpongeBob SquarePants. What does it mean? Nothing. Biggest release in Xbox Game Studios history. It's unclear how much Game Pass cut into these games' actual sales. You see what I mean here? Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this, right? It's unclear how much Game Pass cut into these games' actual sales. The word actual right there cuts to the heart of all of the sentiment around this argument. Actual versus what? Versus marketing, versus fluff. And believe me, I'm all for fluff. I love it. But actual sales, or how much money they've made through downloadable content avenues. Though it is clear that Microsoft isn't overly concerned. Since 2015, the company has turned to active users as its key metric for success. Every company that uses active users as a key metric of success uses microtransactions at a very heavy rate to make money. Because at the end of the day, you've got to make money. Active users is a euphemism for active pockets that we can reach into and pick money out of. That's all it is. So you can buy a game for $70 up front and have it be great and finished, and maybe over time spend a little bit of money. Or you can buy a game that's just not complete at all and say, well, I'm going to give them time and I might buy this horse armor here and wait 6 months for another enemy type. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying they're not going to release complete games, by the way. Starfield is a test for me. Starfield is it, man. This game comes out and it's ass. I mean, this game comes out and it is ass. I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it. Active users. And in that regard, both Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5 shattered series records. Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5, in the regard of active users, shattered series records. Think about that one for a second. Okay? They've never used active users before for any Halo or for any Forza. So how the hell can we say they shattered series records? Because now they're using a metric that they've never used before. But that's okay. Let's keep going. It's worth noting that Forza Horizon 5 debuted as the fourth best selling game last November in North America. That's what I'm interested in, because that points to the fact that a complete game. By the way, I can already hear it. This just dispels your whole argument because Forza sold. Forza again. Guess what Forza was? That Halo Infinite, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown. Guess what Forza Horizon 5 was? A complete AAA game at launch. And people went out and purchased it. That is the point of my argument. It's not about Game Pass being ass. It's about Game Pass being used as a crutch to release games that aren't finished, to spend less money to develop them because they're going into a service, and then over time, while we use the other small games in the service to nickel and dime people, we'll use that revenue to finish those games. And then 6 months later, people can jump up and down about Sea of Thieves. That's my problem. That's my point. Forza Horizon 5 proves it. When you release something that is feature complete, that is AAA, that isn't broken, it's the 4th best-selling game last November in North America, according to NPD. Complementing its Day One Game Pass initiative is Microsoft's acquisition strategy, bringing acclaimed developers under the Xbox umbrella to create new games that bolster the Game Pass library. Microsoft's recent acquisition spree truly kicked off in 2018 when it purchased 4 studios: Playground Games, Undead Labs, Ninja Theory, which in my estimation was the biggest get, and Compulsion Games, besides, of course, Activision and Bethesda, which is Activision's a nightmare. Microsoft has since acquired RPG experts Obsidian. I wouldn't say experts. I wouldn't say experts based on Knights of the Republic 2, and in Exile, Double Fine, the whole of Bethesda, which I would say are experts, and most recently Activision Blizzard. The two latest. What the fuck? I gotta have a sip of coffee. Hold on. The 2 latest acquisitions, Bethesda and Activision. But it also provides an immediate boost to Game Pass by integrating these publishers' sizable backlogs. I love that word, backlog. Thanks in part to these acquisitions, Xbox exclusive drought seems to be over. Okay, I'm waiting. In June 2021, by the way, it's 2022 now, Microsoft announced its intention to release a new first-party game into Game Pass every quarter. That was in June 2021, people. A new first-party game every quarter. It followed through with Psychonauts 2, Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, and Age of Empires 4, because that is a killer on console, let me tell you. Though it failed to release a game in Q1 2022. Despite missing this past quarter, Microsoft looks set to capitalize on its acquisitions and potentially release its quarterly efforts with Redfall, again, another co-op, go-to-multiplayer shooter, Starfield. All hope hinges on Starfield. Contraband, another co-op multiplayer shooter. Everwild is not coming out. That game's getting canceled. Hellblade 2 is taking forever to come out, and hopefully it is great. State of Decay 3, I'm just going to move on. And Avowed. The problem with Avowed I have is that it's probably going to be just like Starfield, only instead of being in the future in space, it's going to be fantasy in the medieval times, which is fine. The Outer Worlds 2, Perfect Dark, Fable. I don't know when these games are coming, and I don't know how great they're going to be or how good they're going to be, but they better be great. They better be Forza Horizon 5 at launch into Game Pass quality, and not State of Decay 2, Crackdown 3, Halo Infinite quality at launch in Game Pass. So this article just goes on to talk about Game Pass and then the cloud, which nobody wants to use. Nobody wants to stream games. And I think it's obvious at this point that nobody wants to stream games. So, did I just cut off and come back on again? Because it says live for 2 minutes and 13 seconds. That makes absolutely no sense to me. I feel like I've been talking for longer than 2 minutes and 13 seconds. That's going to fucking suck. Let me check, see what's up. No, it's working. It's working. All right, cool. Cloud gaming. Nobody wants to stream games, and they just don't. Nobody wants to stream games. So it's a nice, it's nice to have it. It's the same principle as a condom. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That's cloud streaming. While effectively cloud gaming is still nascent, the technology is catching up with the concept. The cloud infrastructure Microsoft has built will enable the company to further its goals of making games as accessible as possible. Spencer has been quoted multiple times referencing Microsoft's desire to reach billions of gamers and removing the need for iterative pieces of $300 and $500 hardware is a significant step towards realizing that ambition. Improving accessibility also involves expanding the availability of Game Pass. Game Pass needs to go everywhere. Game Pass can't be stuck on Xbox because Xbox isn't a dominant platform globally. It's PlayStation, it's Nintendo. So if Nintendo releases a pro version at some point and it can run games at like Xbox Series S levels, then Game Pass could go to Nintendo. PlayStation would probably have to allow Game Pass on PlayStation, and the only way they would do that is if Xbox got out of the hardware business, which I think Xbox is going to do eventually. I really do. Blue Arrow, it's the same for me with Blu-rays. I love my physical media, but I have Netflix, which is nice to have. Exactly. I mean, I had a party last night with cousins, and we watched, I think Paramount released Star Trek the motion picture, the director's cut with all this extra shit in it and all the extra effects and stuff like that. And it's just there. It's convenient. And you watch it and it looks great. He's a huge collector. I don't get it. Thousands of DVDs on a wall somewhere. You watch the movie maybe twice. Maybe. And they just sit there forever. Whatever. To each their own. Blue Arrow says hello to everybody. I don't know. I mean, it's me, so everybody could be like two people. But thank you anyway. This play at accessibility has been at the heart of Xbox brand revival. While consumers are benefiting, this isn't pure altruism, of course. And you go on social media and the Xbox channels, and I won't name them, but you know those people who are like, everything Microsoft does is for the children and the orphans and the hungry and the homeless. They care about us so much. Those are the people that are super successful because they're fleecing the sheep. They tell you what you need to hear to get you to subscribe, to pay me to ask questions. You know who they are. Come on. It's obvious at this point. It isn't, it's business. However, there are times when business and consumer interest align. Times when what best serves a company also serves consumers. Game Pass for now represents one such synergistic scenario. I disagree. I really disagree. If they're going to release games that aren't finished, then it doesn't serve me, and you can't say that it serves everyone. What's next for Game Pass? The future of Game Pass is the future of Xbox. Again, yes. So, I don't even know, do they call it Xbox Game Pass anymore, or just Game Pass? I know on the dashboard it says Xbox Game Pass, but out in the stores it's Game Pass. There's no Xbox attached to it. I could see a future where, Xbox is gone because their hardware really isn't something that people go crazy for. People aren't running out and buying Surfaces over, Samsung's tablets and computers and Apple's. Even with all these additions to Game Pass, the monthly price hasn't changed. Spencer has implied the $15 a month price tag for Ultimate is likely going to stay in place for the foreseeable future. Hello, Netflix. While most explicitly telling Axios Game Pass is very, very sustainable right now, a higher priced Game Pass family plan, however, is reportedly in the works. Now that's interesting because Johnny5 says, Barry, didn't you know Phil is Jesus? I didn't know that, but I know some people who actually pray at the church of Phil Spencer. I know some people who do. I know some people who have left the church of Phil Spencer and come back to the church of Phil Spencer and left the church of Phil Spencer and come back to the church of Phil Spencer too. As for the sustainability of releasing, where was I? The Game Pass family plan. So Netflix and Disney Plus and every other streaming service are looking to take away those family plans where you can share your account with like 4 or 5 people because they're losing out. They're losing too much money. Microsoft's going to try this with Game Pass. I guarantee you. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I can guarantee you that they'll take it away eventually. Why would you subscribe? If I'm sub for $1 and I can share it with 4 people, why did I turn into Kermit the Frog there? If I'm sub to Game Pass for $4, why would I? Never mind. As for the sustainability of releasing future games on Game Pass, publishers' initial worries, at least in some cases, have been remedied by the aforementioned increases in player engagement and spending. It's not just engagement. People, all the time, 25 million people played Halo. It's not 25 million that they're happy about. It's that out of that 25 million, they may have gotten more people to pay for things, as opposed to getting them to pay up front for $60 because they couldn't get them with the games they were making. Instead of making games better, they made a subscription service. I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm not knocking Xbox. I'm just telling you the facts. The motherfucking facts. There's something wrong with me. With commercial and creative visibility now a known quantity, Xbox Game Pass is only going to grow. In addition to Microsoft's entire upcoming first-party slate, third-party games Stalker 2, A Plague's Tale, Requiem, and Atomic Heart are all joining Xbox Game Pass at launch. Okay, Stalker 2 looks okay. Atomic Heart, I think, looks really good. And I'm really interested in, what's the other one? What's that one, the horror one that looks like the guy who did the artwork for Alien did it. What is that called? God, I'm interested in that. The service may also see a massive wave of new games in the first half of 2023 when Microsoft finalizes its acquisition of Activision Blizzard and obtains the entire Call of Duty catalog. I don't even want to get into Call of Duty and Activision because there are things I want to say about Activision and what's going on that I can't say because it's 2022, and maybe someday I'll be able to, but I will say that it's probably not what most people are saying. I agree with some of it, but there are some things that I would love to speak about, but I can't. Over the course of 4 years, Xbox Game Pass has shifted from a perceived risky bet, which it still is, to a cornerstone of the entire Xbox experience, and I disagree with that too. Unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't disagree with that. I would like other things to be a cornerstone of Xbox rather than a subscription service, but not long ago, there were questions of Xbox's demise. Now the company is at the forefront of gaming's next frontier. Game Pass, coupled with excellent hardware innovations. I agree with that. Xbox Series X is a great piece of hardware. I have a Series S. I had it for over a year. That's great too. I like the Series S design better than the Series X because it looked like just a weird box. But then again, the PlayStation 5, I don't know. But the Xbox Series X is a great piece of hardware. Xbox Series X and X has brought confidence back to the brand and restored a communal excitement last felt during the days of the Xbox 360. Okay. Maybe I'm old. I don't feel that same excitement that I did during the Xbox 360. Maybe it's because these big games haven't launched yet. For me, I'm going to sum it up. Halo's the biggest game you have. We're going to launch the new Xbox with Halo, and then they missed it. Right? And then they delayed it. And then they launched it in the state that it's in. If this is how they feel, this is the level of care for Halo. And the only thing I can think of that caused Halo to be treated this way is the fact that it's going in to a subscription service day and date. Just like Sea of Thieves did. And if that is what's going to happen to their first party titles, then I'm a little upset about it, and I'm a little anxious about it, and I'm even a little worried about it. That's my point. And seeing Sony talk about investing in Epic and talking about everything and anything but games worries me too. Because I think PlayStation Premium is going to be successful. I think PlayStation Premium is going to have Scorn. Thank you, Jedi Johnny 5. Scorn is the game I was talking about. I think PlayStation Premium will have more subscribers in its first year than Game Pass in its last 5 years. I really believe that. And the problem with that is, with that level of success, what's that going to do to Sony? Are they going to sit there and say, you know what, instead of spending $250 million on a brand new IP from an Insomniac or from Naughty Dog, why don't we just make something a little bit smaller and put it into our subscription service, and over time fix it that way, because we'll get money over every month from subscribers. We won't have to spend as much. And then we could just recoup that cost by the subscription fee and put a little bit more into the game and a little bit more into the game until it's finally complete. I don't want that to happen. Now, maybe the rest of the market does. Maybe I'm the odd man out. Maybe I'm the old dog and I didn't learn any new tricks. It could be that. But so far, I'm looking at things like Kirby Forgotten Land, which is phenomenal. I would pay $60 or $70 for that. I paid $60. I love it. Legend of Zelda, Xenosaga. I'll pay $60 all day for those. Ratchet and Clank, God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us 2, Spider-Man, Horizon Forbidden West. No problem. There's an expectation of games being of a high quality and being finished. Yes, they have some problems, some bugs, and more importantly, critiques that I have with Horizon Forbidden West is the fact that they did not fix the melee combat at all. But objectively, look at the game. There's nothing. They're not releasing anything of that quality yet. So that's why I say to everyone that talks to me about this stuff, Starfield is the stopgap. Starfield, and then everything else comes out after that. Starfield is the barometer. So it's got to be good. It's got to be great. It's got to be quality. That's what I want. And with Sony and this metaverse nonsense, listen, they can get into this just as deep as Microsoft. And then we're all stuck with these boxes that do nothing different but lean on their history, which Sony has much more of than Microsoft. And while leaning on the history, they damage the future and the creativity, because we're all just pumping out money every month for 10 mobile games and 1 AA every once in a while. I don't want it. That's my critique, and that's my expectation. But I do love my Series X. I got to be honest with you. Gears 5 looks incredible. It really does. And I know people hate Kate Diaz, and I hate her too, but it just looks phenomenal. It really does. And I wish that they did something deeper and more bolder with Gears of War, opened it up even more. Dare I say open world Gears. I guarantee you that's what they're going to do after Halo Infinite. It's going to be Gears Infinite. Wouldn't that be funny if they made Gears Infinite? We're going to just keep updating it forever. Live service Gears. I want campaigns that are meaningful. I want characters and story arcs that I can think about and talk about and then crave the next game. Remember single player gamers? Merge them together with the multiplayer gamers. Don't forget about them. Bungie used to do that effortlessly with Halo 2 and Halo 3. They did it effortlessly. So hopefully that's something that continues in the future. I have no idea how long this has been. It only says 16 minutes on my screen, but it's got to be longer than that. Let me just check my YouTube. Yeah, I'm at almost an hour. I'm going to end it here. I appreciate it. I had 4 people. That's incredible for me, trust me, because I don't do a lot of the nonsense that other people do, and I'm not out there gobbling gobbles for Microsoft or Xbox or making these really provocative tweets. Maybe I should. Maybe I should start doing that. I'll be more successful. I don't know. It's just fun doing this on my own and talking about shit and just being real. Thanks for coming in. Invader Gaming. Go subscribe to his channel. He does great achievement and trophy guides. Jedi Johnny 5 was here. Appreciate that. Blue Arrow was here. And this is Basket Case episode 2. This is Worrywart. Go subscribe to my YouTube, Worrywart Gaming. Go subscribe to my Twitter. And I'll see you in the next Basket Case.